got it. You got it.
We're here in Bend, which is where I live, for High Cascades 100 mountain bike race. The Cascade mountain range is what Mount Bachelor and Mount Hood and Three Sisters are all part of, and so that's why it's named that. And it's a 100-mile mountain bike race. This year, unfortunately, decreased to 90 for heat, actually heat and snow purposes, which is a wild coincidence and a thing that I don't think many races have to deal with. Kind of last thing I got to do is just check the sealant in this tire. I just replaced the rear one because it was getting a little worn out. Flats are rare in Bend, and I run inserts in here. I've got the Victoria Airliners, but it would just be really dumb to have that happen on race day and have the race end because your sealant was dry. Pulled the brake pads, sanded them down a little bit, cleaned everything up. Not too much left to go. Got to put on the number plate. Riding 100 miles mountain bike, certainly not a typical triathlon thing, but kind of at the point in my career where I have great sponsors and I've checked off a lot of things on my goals list that I wanted to do, and I just want to do stuff that gets me fired up and excited. And riding 100 miles on a mountain bike and racing it properly is so multifaceted in terms of the gear selection and the training and how you're gonna do nutrition for 100 miles. It's really fires up my brain in every way possible. So these are Victoria Mezcals, which are definitely Victoria's drier condition tire. This tread pattern, for some reason, with the moon dust powder sugar we have for trails here, hooks up incredible. And then I run the airliners in there just to prevent any pinch flats, so I can run 16 PSI. Try to float a little bit on some of the dust. I always like to try to pump a tire up by hand just to see how hard it is. So if people ask me oh, I don't have a compressor, do you think I could get on just pumping really hard? I can say yes or no. Yes, no problem. So this bike is new for me this year. It's new for everybody. It's the Epic 8. It's a slightly bigger bike when it goes downhill than last year's Epic. It's got 120 millimeters of travel, but it has a 3-position lockout. I'm pretty into this. When I'm pedaling most of the time uphill on the trails, I put it into the pedal mode, which is like a half lock position, and it just feels like a rocket ship. And then you switch it into downhill mode essentially, or open, and you've got so much travel. It's like a Cadillac. Drivetrain is all SRAM. Transmission, if you know what it is, you know it's awesome. If I could pick any bike for this course, I might have gone with the World Cup, just because there's so much gravel road this time, and the World Cup almost rides like a hardtail but has a little bit of suspension. But I think we're kind of splitting hairs. Last, and pretty much as far from least as can possibly be, Squirt Lube. I would not be doing this race if it was not for Squirt Lube. I went to sign up 3 months ago, thinking I was way ahead of the ball and everything, and the race organizer told me that it was all sold out and they had no entries left. Squirt Lube is a sponsor of the race and had some extra entries available, and they said if I use a little Squirt Lube, I could have one of those entries. Fantastically, I've actually been using nothing but Squirt Lube since this race last year, because I got a little sample of it in the race packet last year and it was so good. This is all I use now, so match made in heaven. Yeah, it's hard to, I don't know, it's kind of hard to plan a strategy around this because I feel it's so out of my normal wheelhouse, but my general mental strategy is to beat the heat. It should be 100 degrees tomorrow. Luckily we'll be done before it gets crazy. Last year I feel like I kind of missed out on a chance at the podium because I crumpled in the heat on a really exposed section of the course around mile 70. So gonna be trying to have Paula out there on course giving me a hydration bladder occasionally that'll go inside of this sweet new Castelli top that I have that can hold a hydration bladder like in a normal jersey, and it's right against your back. So it's like 50% for fueling and 50% for keeping cool. Ultimately, I just want to try and go with the race. Last year, the first hour, I told myself I wasn't gonna go over 340 watts, and I just kind of kept that as a hard ceiling, and the top 10 guys all rode away from me. And then I caught all but 2 of them at some point in the race. And I think while that was like the best pacing strategy, I didn't feel like it put me in a position to win it, which is a huge stretch goal. But like that's what's exciting and interesting to me about the race is like, what does it take to win one of these? What does it take to get a podium? Like, how far off am I? If really far off is the answer, that's okay, but then I'll know.
One adventure medic back here. We have 1 in the field. Rolling out of here, pretty smooth. We'll get 5 miles out where you're gonna return. You're gonna take a left, you're gonna hit single track, climb to 1 mile 21, come back. Then it gets serious. Skyliner Trail, mile 41, hard left turn. When we ran that course before, some hiker fell on a guy's wheel and took him out of the race. If you're a leader, you may experience people coming down that trail because it's typically a descending trail. Up at the top of the hill, it's a right-hand turn down Mrazek, 10 miles. Then you start the heat. That's when you're gonna have the most of the climbing for the rest of the day. Funner down, cruise down through the woods right here, finish right here, celebrate, awards at 5:30. Got $4,000 in cash to give away. Somebody's gonna give a 10-second countdown. Chris Peterson or Seth? Here, I'll give you the mic, okay? Wouldn't work without the mic.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Straight out of the parking lot, you have a long straight climb up Cascade Lakes Highway, turn onto Conklin Road, all on asphalt before you finally turn onto single track. This gives the field enough time to space out and ideally be less of a pinch point when the single track does inevitably come. I maintained position at the top 3 wheels this entire time, which I think may have used a little bit too much energy versus sitting in the pack on the road, but I wanted to make sure that once we hit the single track, I wasn't stuck behind anybody who was going to let a gap open, because I was not confident in my ability to bring back a bunch of time if I lost it. I noticed that I was riding really well on the single track and the technical aspects of the course, but as soon as the trail pitched upward, I was losing time to the lead. Unfortunately, throughout the course of the next hour and 15 minutes, I did lose about 90 seconds to the leaders, which, just like last year, I feel this was kind of a deciding moment of the race, because right after you crest this first climb of the day, you go into a long section of fire road, and riding as a group there, super critical. My strategy to roll with just a hydration pack up the first climb I think was still solid. I grabbed a bottle from Paula at the first aid station, and if I had been anywhere near that lead group, that would have given me the ability to maybe bridge back on, not get dropped, etc. But heading into this like 5 to 6 mile stretch of fire road, I was totally solo, and the gap started to go out more and more.
5 at 130. Okay, rode hard up that. I give you this.
Yeah.
What's the gap?
Like 30 seconds.
While riding alone really sucked. It does suit my abilities. I can come from 70.3 racing, and I was hopeful that if I just rode steadily, I wouldn't lose too much time and then might be able to bring back a little bit once the course went downhill. At 52 kilometers in, there was a second crewable aid station of the day. This is about 2 hours and 15 minutes. Paula was there with a full restock of supplies, 2 bottles, a bottle of water if I needed it, and a new hydration pack, all full of Tailwind Nutrition high carb fuel mix. This was also about 3K from the second highest point of the course, at which point we would be going downhill, and I'd finally be able to recover a little bit and have some fun.
You're only like 45 seconds behind the next guy. The other guys are like 4 minutes out, but are you feeling okay? You need gels?
No.
Okay, love you.
Thanks.
Crush, dude. Let's go.
Rider behind, rider behind.
Over the course of the next 20 kilometers, I was in a battle for 6th place with a guy who had caught me on the road section. I dropped him on the technical downhill, and then around kilometer 70, I caught up to 4th place.
All right, Eric, let's go. Come on. Looking good. Let's go. One guy's dropped about 10 seconds off the back.
Becoming increasingly evident to me that I was riding very well on the technical sections and the downhills, but my uphills were just not where they needed to be. The most challenging climb of the day is Farewell Trail, which I would never ride up on a normal occasion. This is definitely a downhill preference trail, but my strategy going up this was basically to ride as hard as I needed to get up the technical sections and then try to recover a little bit on the flat 20-second sections that were between the steepest parts. Going up that climb, 5th place caught back up to me, got in front of me, and we started down the longest descent of the day, Mrazek Trail, together. It took me about 5 minutes to get around him. By the time we'd finished that 45-minute long descent, I'd put in a 2-minute gap and felt like I was in a pretty good position to start the final climb of the day. A combination of single track, some asphalt road, but mostly exposed, dusty fire roads all the way back up the mountain.
Dropper's going out on me.
Yeah.
Had to raise the post.
Coming into the final aid station at kilometer 122, I was so excited to be done climbing, so ready to start descending. More than anything, I was excited to get some cold liquids, water, ice, fresh nutrition from Paula, and just see somebody.
Just had a jaw.
You okay?
Yep. Very hot. Thank you.
I knew that if I had my temperature dialed and fuel dialed, I'd be able to rip the final descent, not crash, maybe even bring back a little time.
Let's go, brother. You got it. You got it.
At this point in the race, I was pretty sure I was going to catch anybody in front of me unless they fell, so this descent was going to be mostly for fun and also just for personal pride to see if I could have the fastest time of the day down it.
More ahead, so. Right? Trailer good? Looks good. Got the shot.
dog. Take it home.
And he is free and clear. Let's put your hands together for Bend, Oregon. Welcome. That is the Paula Barbarian. About a minute and a half down. Landon Farnworth, 45 years young, 6:04:21. This is our 4th overall finisher. High five, everybody. Yes, it is. Atta boy, Eric Lagerstrom.
That away, buddy. You need a boost, right? So.
You're not worried about. You okay? Can I trade? Yeah, trade. Are you feeling okay?
Yep.
You dying?
I'm very tired. Oh my god. It was so hard.
Did you crash?
Oh yeah, just once.
You okay?
Yeah, Curtis got it on video, so it was worth it.
Oh, really? You just crashed?
It's hard to go fast downhill when you're tired.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm back. Oh.
Oh, good job.
I think it went pretty well. I just like... Takeaways from this race for me are that while I'm decent at riding for 6 to 7 hours, I'm still not good enough at climbing really hard for 1 hour. Or at least I'm not willing to risk blowing up in hour 7 to ride as hard as I possibly can in hour 1. Maybe next year, that'll be my new strategy, but the cool thing about High Cascades 100 is that every year the course is different, so you kind of have to make a new strategy for each year. Also, it makes it so that people who have done it for 5 years don't really have necessarily any sort of advantage over somebody who's doing it for their first year. This is a really rad race. I would 100% recommend it to anyone unless you have an extreme aversion to heat, and the sense of community and that local race culture is just top-notch. Thanks to Mike Ripley, who puts on the race, and for all the sponsors who sponsor it. Stoked that I was able to be there and be a part of it.
Well done. And there was no swim and run leg, but Eric Lagerstrom knows a thing or two about riding a bike as well. So 4th place professional triathlete, 6:13:25 from Bend, Eric Lagerstrom.
Since I still have not accomplished my goal of getting on the podium at this race, if you're thinking about doing it, I'll see you there next year. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.